Nash, the leader of the Barian emperors, characterized by his short fuse and sense of justice. Also known by the names of Shark and Reginald Castle, this duelist has faced one emotional conflict after another, from rejecting friendship with Yuma, to begrudgingly accepting it, to multiple possessions by numbers that only emboldened his rage, to facing off against the Barian emperors, to realizing that he was in fact their leader, then having to choose between his duty to his people and his friendships from before. Shark is a high contender for Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters who have suffered the most. But despite all of it, he was able to grit through all of it and never stay down for long. It may have been a long time since we've seen Nash on the big screen, but make no mistake, this fan-favorite character has received many waves of support. So let's take a look and see what kind of cards Shark would use if he were still dueling today. Shark played a Water Xyz deck, mainly focused on none other than the Shark archetype. Sharketype? Well anyways, we'll look at the Sharks in just a minute. But first, we're going to look at one of his first monsters ever, Big Jaws, who has since been retrained into surfacing Big Jaws, alongside a few other fish monsters in Xyz Remora, Silent Angler, and Lifeless Leaffish. If surfacing Big Jaws is used to Xyz summon a water monster, it can be treated as a level 3 or 5 monster, already giving it some great versatility. During the main phase of a turn that a spell was activated, it can special summon itself from the hand, and when it's summoned, it can add a fish-type shark monster from the deck to the hand. Xyz Remora can summon itself from the hand by detaching 2 overlay units from among the player's Xyz monsters. Once summoned by that effect, it can summon 2 fish from the player's grave, but their effects are negated, and they can't attack, change battle positions, or be used for a non-water Xyz summon. Silent Angler can special summon itself from the hand if the player controls a water monster, but prevents the player from special summoning from their hand for the rest of the turn. When Lifeless Leaffish is summoned, it can send another fish from the deck to the grave. Leaffish can be banished from the grave to shuffle 3 other fish from the grave into the deck and draw a card. Now we get on to some standard sharks, starting with Shark Stickers and Cutter Shark. Stickers can summon itself when the player summons another fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster. When a card or effect targets a monster the player controls, or if one of the player's monsters is targeted for an attack while Cutter Shark is in the hand or the graveyard, it can tribute the targeted monster to summon itself. If special summoned, it can add a water monster from the grave to the hand during the end phase except itself. Covering the next few sharks in sorted pairs, we have Left Hand Shark and Right Hand Shark. Both give effects to Xyz summoned monsters that were summoned using only water monsters that were also summoned using them. Left-hand Shark makes them indestructible by card effects, and Right-hand Shark makes them indestructible in battle. When Right-hand Shark is normal summoned, it can add Left-hand Shark from the deck to the hand. If Right-hand Shark is in the grave and the player controls no monsters, it can summon itself but it gets banished when it leaves the field. If Left-hand Shark is summoned from the grave, its level becomes 4. If the player controls Right-hand Shark and Left Hand is in the grave, it can summon itself but it gets banished when it leaves the field. For our next pair, we have Double Shark and Double Fin Shark. Each activates an effect when they're normal summoned. Double Shark can reduce the levels of all the player's level 4 fish by 1, and it can attack twice each battle phase. Double Fin Shark can summon a level 3 or 4 water fish from the grave with its effects negated, but the player can only summon water monsters that turn. Up next, Hammer Shark and Saber Shark. Once per turn, Hammer Shark can reduce its level by 1 to summon a level 3 or lower water monster from the hand. Twice per turn, Saber Shark can modulate the level of a fish on the field by 1, but the player can only special summon water monsters that turn. Then there's Lantern Shark and Buzzsaw Shark. If either of them are used to Xyz summon a water monster, they can both be used as level 3s or 5s. When Lantern Shark is summoned, it can summon a level 3, 4, or 5 water monster from the hand in defense mode. Buzzsaw Shark can target a water monster the player controls to summon another fish from the deck with a different name. Then we have 2 sharks based on Nash and Marin's Metherian numbers, Abyss Shark and Crystal Shark. If either of them are used to Xyz summon a number, they can be used as level 3s or 4s. If all the monsters the player controls are water monsters, Abyss Shark can summon itself from the hand, then add a level 3, 4, or 5 fish from the deck to the hand. but for the rest of the turn, the player can only special summon water monsters, and the player's number monsters deal doubled battle damage when battling another monster. Crystal Shark can have the attack points of a water monster to summon itself from the hand or graveyard. Then we have two sharks that are meant to support number 32 Shark Drake, Drake Shark and Vice Shark. Both can give a special ability to a Shark Drake Xyz monster that has them as a material. A Shark Drake monster summoned using Drake Shark gains the once per turn effect to detach 2 overlay units to attach a spell or trap on the field to itself as an overlay unit. A Shark Drake monster summoned using Vice Shark gains the once per turn effect to detach 2 overlay units to negate a spell or trap card's effect and destroy it. If Drake Shark is added to the hand except by being drawn, it can summon itself, and Drake Shark can be used as 2 materials for the summon of a Water Xyz monster that requires 3 or more materials to summon. If Vice Shark is summoned, it can tribute a fish to summon another fish-type shark from the deck, but the player can only special summon water monsters for the rest of the turn. Rounding out the main deck monsters, we'll end on Hydrojet Shark and Armored Shark, which is also always treated as an Armored Xyz card. We'll get more into that later. If a Water Xyz monster is on the field, Hydrojet Shark can summon itself from the hand, but it can't be summoned again that turn. A player can only use one of Hydrojet Shark's other effects each turn. During the main phase, Hydrojet Shark can send a fish-type shark or an Xyz spell or trap from the deck to the grave. Hydrojet Shark can be banished from the grave to add an Aquajet card from the deck or grave to the hand. Armored Shark can send a Water Xyz from the extra deck to the grave to summon a fish with the same level as the sent monster's rank from the graveyard. During the opponent's turn, if Armored Shark is in the grave, it can equip itself to a Water Xyz monster the player controls as an equip spell that grants 500 attack points. Starting off the spells, we have Shark's old Aquajet card, which has since been retrained into Aquajet Surface, as well as Torpedo Takedown. Aquajet Surface summons a level 4 or lower fish, sea serpent, or aqua from the hand or grave. If the opponent controls an attack position monster, Surface Aquajet can be banished from the grave to boost a fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster the player controls by 1000 attack points for the turn. Torpedo Takedown targets a Water Xyz monster the player controls, and detaches one of its overlay units to burn the opponent for 400 damage for each card in the player's hand. Then the Xyz monster gains attack points equal to the damage inflicted for the rest of the turn. Torpedo Takedown can be banished from the grave alongside another Water Xyz from the grave to draw 2 cards, though only one of its effects can be used each turn and only once that turn. Now we have Shark's Big Bad Barian suite, which I'm going to split up into 4 parts, starting with 7th Ascension, 7th Tachyon, and 7th Force. 7th Ascension can take a 7 spell or trap, Barian spell or trap, or rank up magic quick play spell, and either add to the hand or stack it on top of the deck. If the opponent controls a monster summoned from the extra deck, Ascension can banish itself from the graveyard and send a rank up magic from the hand to the grave to copy that spell's effect. 7th Tachyon reveals an ever 100 number monster in the extra deck, then adds a monster from the deck to the hand with the same attribute and level as that monster's rank, then places a card from the hand on top of the deck. 7th Force activates during the battle phase if a monster was destroyed. It ranks up a number from the grave, attaching it to the newly summoned monster. Then, if a Chaos over 100 number monster was summoned, 7th Force can add a 7th spell or trap, Barian spell or trap, or rank up magic quick play spell from the deck to the hand. Next up, we have 3 7th traps: Reincarnation of the 7th Emperors, Rebirth of the 7th Emperors, and 7th Eternity. During damage calculation, if an over 100 number, or a monster that has an over 100 number as a material battles, Reincarnation can banish that monster to summon a rank 3 or lower non-number Xyz from the extra deck during the end phase, then burn the opponent for that monster's original attack points. Rebirth of the 7th Emperors tributes all Xyz monsters the player controls to summon a banished Xyz, then attach over 100 numbers that are banished or in the grave up to the number of tributed monsters plus 1. During the end phase of the turn that Rebirth was activated, each player takes 300 damage for each card in their hand. 7th Eternity targets an over 100 number, or a monster with an over 100 number as material that the player controls to either negate the effects of an opponent's monster with equal or fewer attack points for the turn, or detach all materials from the target to summon a number from the grave. Then there's Rank Up Magics, the 7th one, and Barian's Force. Rank Up Magic, the 7th one, activates only if it's drawn as a normal draw at the start of the turn. It reveals itself in the hand and stays revealed until the start of the first main phase of the turn, where it can then be activated to summon an over 100 number from the extra deck or graveyard, then immediately rank it up. Barian's Force is the standard rank up magic, ranking up any Xyz monster into a Chaos number or Chaos Xyz of the same type at 1 rank higher. After that, Barian's Force gets to steal an overlay unit from an opponent's Xyz and attach it to the newly summoned monster. Finally, Barian's Chaos Draw and Barian Untopia. Barian's case draws mechanically congruent to the 7th one, where it has to be drawn as a normal draw for turn in order to be used. When activated at the start of the first main phase, it can send either a 7th normal spell from the deck to the grave to copy that spell's effect, or summon 2 monsters from the deck, negate their effects, and immediately summon a number monster using those 2 monsters as material. Barian Ontopia protects the player's level 100 numbers and chaos numbers from being targeted or destroyed by the opponent. Once per turn, if the player summons an Xyz monster with a Ragged magic effect, Ontopia can take an opponent's monster and absorb it into the newly summoned monster as an overlay unit. Then we have 4 Armored Xyz cards. Xyz Entrust, Armored Xyz, Reincarnation Unveiling Mail, and Full Armored Xyz. Xyz Entrust can add an Armored Xyz card from the deck or grave to the hand, then make up to 2 face-up monsters the player controls become both level 3 or 5 for the turn. During the main phase of a turn after it was sent to the grave, Xyz Entrust can be banished from the grave to summon an Xyz monster that's being treated as an equip spell from the spell and trap card zone. Armored Xyz equips a monster the player controls with an Xyz monster from the grave as an equip spell with 3 different effects. The equipped monster's attack points become the Xyz monster's attack points, the equipped monster gains the Xyz monster's attribute, and at the end of the damage step, if the equipped monster attacked, the Xyz monster can be sent to the grave to allow the equipped monster to make a second attack in a row. Reincarnation Unveiling Mail is always treated as an Armored Xyz card. An Xyz monster equipped with it can't be destroyed in battle, and once per turn, if the equipped monster battled, it can return a card equipped to it to the hand to immediately conduct a Water Xyz summon. Once per turn, if Reincarnation Unveiling Mail is in the grave because it was sent there that turn, it can equip itself onto an Xyz monster. If an Xyz monster is on the field, Full Armored Xyz allows the player to immediately conduct an Xyz summon using monsters they control. Full Armored Xyz can be banished from the grave to equip an Xyz monster the player controls with another Xyz monster from their field or grave as an equipped spell with 2 effects. The equipped monster gains the attack of the equipped spell, and if the equipped monster would be destroyed, the equipped spell is destroyed instead. Up next, we have 2 Xyz Splash Traps, Revive and Poseidon. Each of them can only use one of their effects each turn. Revive Splash summons a rank 4 or lower Xyz from the grave and makes it a water attribute. Revive Splash can be banished from the grave to rank up a water Xyz into another water Xyz. Poseidon Splash activates if the player controls an Xyz monster that has an Xyz monster as an overlay unit and has the player declare an attribute. Then it destroys all monsters on the field with that attribute, except for monsters equipped with spells. Poseidon Splash can detach an overlay unit from one of the player's Xyz monsters and banish itself from the grave to summon a fish, sea serpent, or aqua from the grave to either field. Rounding out the deck, we have Fish Depth Charge and Virtue Stream. Fish Depth Charge tributes a fish to destroy a card on the field, then draw a card. Virtue Stream targets a fish, sea serpent, or aqua the player controls, along with 2 of the opponent's cards, and destroys them. Virtue Stream can be banished from the grave to target a monster the player controls, then apply an effect based on the targeted monster's attribute. If it's a water attribute, it protects that monster from effect destruction once that turn. If it's not a water attribute, it becomes water attribute. And now for a big shocker, we are going to completely and entirely forego a side deck for this profile in favor of giving Shark a robust 30-card extra deck. If you decide to make this list for yourself, you can pick which 15 move aside. Starting off, we have Black Ray Lancer. It's summoned using 2 level 3 water monsters, and once per turn, it can detach an overlay unit to target a face-up monster on the field and negate its effects for the turn. This monster has a Full Armored Xyz evolution. Full Armored Black Ray Lancer can be Xyz summoned using 3 level 4 water monsters, or it can be Xyz summoned on top of a rank 3 water Xyz that has no overlay units. It gains 200 attack points for each overlay unit it has. If Full Armored Black Ray Lancer would be destroyed, it can detach all of its overlay units instead. If it destroys an opponent's monster in battle, it can destroy an opponent's spell or trap as well. Number 17 Leviathan Dragon was the number that Shark challenged Yuma with in the first duel of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Unfortunately for Shark, he lost this monster when he lost to Yuma way back then. However, there seems to be a redeemed non-number variant of this card, Le Virtue Dragon. It's summoned using 2 level 3 monsters, and when summoned, it can add Virtue Stream from the deck to the hand. The Virtue Dragon can detach an overlay unit from a monster the player controls to add a fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster from the deck or grave to the hand. The Virtue Dragon can also target 2 Xyz monsters on the field, and attach one of them as an overlay unit to the other. Each of the Virtue Dragons can only be used once per turn. Starting up Shark's numbers for real this time, we have the number given to him by the Arclight family as an attempt to control his mind through his anger, though he eventually gained control over the number on his own. This denizen of the deep is thirsting for a feeding frenzy. Number 32, Shark Drake. It takes 3 level 4 monsters to summon, and once per turn when it destroys an opponent's monster and sends it to the graveyard in battle, it can detach an overlay unit to summon back that monster to the opponent's field with 1,000 less attack points. After that, Shark Drake can attack again. Shark Drake also has a Chaos Xyz evolution. Chaos number 32, Shark Drake Vice, who has since been retrained into Chaos number 32, Shark Drake Levice. It can be summoned using 4 level 5 monsters, or it can be Xyz summoned on top of a rank 4 Shark Drake monster by discarding a spell, in which case the materials are transferred to it. Once per turn, Levice can detach an overlay unit to negate an opponent's monster's effects, then change its stats to 0. Shark Drake Levice can attack twice each turn, and it deals piercing damage. Up next, we have number 37, Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark, which is summoned using 2 level 4 water monsters, and is still a high contender for one of the longest card names in the game. When an attack is declared, number 37 Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark can detach an overlay unit to sink the opponent's monsters by 1,000 attack for the turn. When number 37 Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, it can summon another monster from the grave. Number 37 Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark has a Shining Xyz evolution. Shining number 37 Spider Shark. That's more like it. It can be Xyz summoned using the original number 37 Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark by transferring its materials. Once per turn, it can detach an overlay unit to banish an opponent's monster until their next standby phase, and sink all of their other monsters by 1,000 attack for the turn. Once per turn, during the end phase of a turn that Spider Shark was destroyed while Xyz summoned on the field and sent to the grave, it can summon itself back. Taking a big leap up, we have number 71, Barian Shark, summoned using 2 level 3 monsters. Once per turn, if it has material, it can summon a number of Xyz from the grave, then attach an overlay unit from itself onto that monster. If 71 is sent to the grave, it can place a rank up magic on top of the deck. Number 73, Abyss Splash, is Nash's Matherian number that represents his sealed ancient memories from before he became a Barian. It's summoned using 2 level 5 water monsters, and once per turn, during either player's turn, Abyss Splash can detach an overlay unit to double its attack points until the end of the opponent's turn, but any battle damage it deals is halved. This monster also has a Chaos Xyz evolution. Chaos number 73, Abyss Supra Splash. If a monster the player controls battles, Abyss Supra Splash can detach an overlay unit once per battle to let the player's battling monster gain attack equal to the attack of the monster it's battling during damage calculation. If Supra Splash has the original Abyss Splash as an overlay unit, it can't be destroyed by card effects. Now it's time for Shark's very own over 100 number monster. Number 101, Silent Honor Arc. Joining this monster, however, will be all of the other over 100 numbers, which Shark inherited from the other emperors after Dawn 1000 was defeated. Number 102, Star Seraph Sentry. Number 103, Ragna Zero. Number 104, Masquerade. Number 105, Batlin Boxer Star Cestus. Number 106, Giant Hand. And number 107, Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. Silent Honor Arc, summoned using 2 level 4 monsters, can detach 2 overlay units to attach an opponent's special summoned attack position monster to itself as an overlay unit. If Silent Honor Arc would be destroyed by battle, it can detach an overlay unit instead. I've already covered each of the other Emperor's aces in previous videos in the series, so if you don't already know what they do, I highly recommend all of the other Barian Emperor profiles that came before this one. The playlist will be linked in the description. All of these monsters can break out their Chaos Xyz evolutions. Chaos number 101, Silent Honor Dark. Chaos number 102, Archfiend Seraph. Chaos number 103, Ragnafinity. Chaos number 104, Umbral Horror Masquerade. Chaos number 105, Batlin Boxer Comet Cestus. Chaos number 106, Giant Red Hand. and Chaos number 107, Neo Galaxy-Eyes Tachyon Dragon. Once per turn, Silent Honor Dark can target a special summon monster the opponent controls and absorb it as an overlay unit. When Silent Honor Dark is destroyed and sent to the grave while it has material, it can summon itself back, then gain life points equal to its original attack points, though the original number 101 has to be in the grave to activate that effect. If summoned by this effect, Silent Honor Dark can't attack for the rest of the turn. Just as with their previous forms, I've also covered the Chaos forms of all the other Barian Emperor Ace monsters, so we'll be moving right along to the reason they're all here. Chaos Xyz Barian Hope. It can be Xyz summoned using 3 or more level 7 monsters, or it can be Xyz summoned on top of any Chaos over 100 number monster by transferring its materials to itself. Barian Hope gains 1,000 attack points for each overlay unit it has. Once per turn, it can target a number in the player's grave to change its name to that monster's name, and replace its effect with that monster's effects. But Barian Hope doesn't end the support of the over 100 numbers. We have a redeemed non-number version of Silent Honor Arc, known as Nash Knight. It's summoned using 2 level 5 monsters, and can't be destroyed in battle while a number is on the field. During the main phase, Nash Knight can detach 2 overlay units to attach an over 100 number from the extra deck to itself as an overlay unit, then attach another face-up monster on the field to itself as well. But let's make one more Chaos Xyz evolution. Chaos Xyz Nash Knight. It can be Xyz summoned right on top of the original by transferring its materials, and it can't be destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, it can detach an overlay unit to summon an over 100 number on top of itself, but destroy it during the opponent's next end phase. In other words, by combining the effects of these 2 monsters, you can effectively get any Chaos over 100 number with their original form as an overlay unit just by making a rank 5, though just be wary that it will only last until the end of the opponent's turn. Unless of course you just use it to summon Barian Hope, in which case you'll have Barian Hope with quite a few overlay units. We have a few Xyz monsters that Shark used in his early days: Submersible Carrier Arrow Shark and Shark Fortress. These 2 monsters, however, have received powerful retrains as Xyz Armor Torpedo and Xyz Armor Fortress. Torpedo is summoned using 2 level 3 monsters, and it can't attack unless it has overlay units. By detaching 2, it can draw a card. If it's equipped to a monster, it applies 2 effects. If the equipped monster battles, the opponent can't activate card effects, and all of their monsters have their effects negated until the end of the damage step. If the equipped monster is an Xyz monster, the opponent can't target it with card effects. Fortress is summoned using 2 level 5 monsters. Once per turn, it can also be Xyz summoned on top of a rank 3 or 4 Xyz monster by transferring its materials. Once per turn, Fortress can detach up to 2 overlay units to add armored Xyz cards with different names from the deck to the hand, up to the number of materials detached. If a monster equipped with Xyz Armor Fortress battles, the battle damage the opponent takes is doubled. Before we cover the grand final boss monster of the deck, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Full Armored Utopic Ray Lancer, a card Shark would likely use when tag team dueling alongside Yuma. But for the grand finale, please welcome Shark's newest and best ace monster, Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer, who appears to be a combination of Silent Honor Dark and Full Armored Black Ray Lancer. It's Xyz summoned using 3 level 7 monsters, or it can be Xyz summoned on top of a rank 5 or 6 monster by transferring its materials. Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer gains 300 attack points for each overlay unit it has, and each card equipped to it. Once per turn, Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer can add an Xyz card from the grave to the hand. Once per turn, if Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer becomes equipped with another card, it can attach an opponent's monster to itself as an overlay unit, meaning this monster can get absurdly big. And that's gonna wrap it up for this Reginald Castle character deck profile. If you want to hear an explanation of the cards included in this deck, and why certain cards were left out, keep watching. Greetings, I'm Wham Bam Duel, and welcome to the explanation segment. To those new to the channel, you may have noticed that the profile segment was rather similar to the deck profiles made by Spell Commander 91. This is on purpose though, as he and I are frequent collaborators and we decided to bring everybody more deck profiles by splitting up some of the work. So to visiting viewers from his channel, welcome, and to everybody else, welcome back. If you're watching this on December 9th, 2025 when I release this video, then you're watching me on my final day of college. I'm finally out, graduated, an alum. So if I appear rather pleased with myself, now you know why. On to the proper part of the segment. I knew when making this profile that I wanted to make a list that included all of the over 100 numbers, but could still hone in on Shark's unique strategies, such as the Shark Drake monsters and the Armored Xyz cards. I believe I've accomplished that. Since by the end of Zexal, Shark has gained access to each over 100 number monster and Barian Hope, it only makes sense that he has access to all the 7th cards, where some, such as Tachyon, were previously exclusive to specific Emperors, and where others, such as Reincarnation and Rebirth, are only meant for those who have all of the 7th Emperor monsters. I'm just gonna get right into the cards that were left out, since I don't feel a huge need to justify the cards in this deck, as I think they do a good job of justifying themselves. I'm also not going to go over every single Water Xyz support card or Water Xyz monster, but I will go over all of the Sharks that aren't here, as well as all the other cards that Shark used in the anime that aren't here. Corroding Shark is a normal monster with the wrong type and attribute to see inclusion. Why am I even bothering with this one? Hyper 8-hit Shark Megalodon can destroy an opponent's monster when it inflicts battle damage. This deck doesn't need level 8s, as Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon can be made using the 7th one, or it can be made using the Nash Knight cards to cheat out Neo Tachyon. Shark Kraken doesn't have much of a place, as the only rank 6s in this profile are Chaos numbers. Cyber Shark is too slow as it takes a normal summon. Shark Cruiser relies on the opponent destroying it to pop off. Death Shark is the same case as Cyber Shark. The attack boost barely means anything. Same for Panther Shark. Gazer Shark was in consideration, but it has no inherent way to summon it, meaning it would rely on being sent from the deck to the grave. Eagle Shark is the same case as Panther Shark. Dream Shark is a free summon, but its other effects aren't very useful. Scrap Shark belongs to a different deck. Metabow Shark does nothing to help. Abyssal King Shark has kind of a do-nothing effect. Spear Shark was in consideration, but most of the sharks in this deck are already level 4, and a lot of them can be used as level 3, 4, or 5 monsters. Wind-Up Shark belongs to a different deck. Mermaid Shark does search every shark in this deck, but so do other cards, and it being a level 1 and requiring the normal summon to get its effect is really inconvenient. Man-Eating Black Shark and Deep Sea Shark could have been decent instant fusion targets if I wanted to include instant fusion, but the extra deck is already cramped enough. Valiant Shark Lancer was also in high consideration, but it just wasn't really iconic enough to see inclusion. Shark Fortress and the original Chaos 32 were left out in favor of their retrains, and even though we do allow characters to play a single banned card from time to time, Shark's deck has kind of evolved beyond needing Bahamut Shark for help. Number 47 Nightmare Shark's effect just wasn't deemed good enough to see inclusion, and like Valiant Shark Lancer, just wasn't iconic enough. Arrow Shark was left out in favor of its retrain. Shark Caesar, despite having the hilariously named Shark counters, just isn't very good. And Shark's deck doesn't make rank 2s, so Cat Shark is off the table. Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon belongs to a different deck. And Puppet Shark references the Arclight family's former control over Shark Drake, and therefore will go to some of their family members. Now for some of the cards Shark played in the anime, Sea Lord's Amulet offers water monsters temporary protection from effect destruction. Just not super useful, a lot of them already have protection effects on their own. Big Jaws was left out in favor of its retrain. Big Whale is just too clunky. Same for Deep Sweeper. Drilled Barnacle is usually removed before it becomes a threat. All Thriller Rabka does is really just negate an attack and weaken an opponent's monster slightly temporarily. Jawsman is an extremely do-nothing card. Same for Needle Sunfish and Shocktopus. Starfish has no way to swarm the field, so its effect isn't super useful either. Skull Kraken is just really slow back row removal, and can change to defense mode, I guess, but 1600 still isn't that big. Tripod Fish has to be summoned in such a specific way for such a minimal effect. Aquajet was left out in favor of its retrain. Book of Moon, Monster Reborn, and Mystical Space Typhoon are all generic cards that I tend to try to avoid in most lists. Salvage, Surface, and Bubble Bringer were all left out in favor of better recovery effects. Fish Rain activates when an Umi type is banished, which doesn't happen too much in this profile. Icy Crevasse's activation condition is a bit specific. Splash Capture only works on opposing Xyz monsters, which might not always come up. Torrential Reborn and Torrential Tribute were already given to Marin, and since I had already reused Crystal Shark and the Xyz splash cards, adding these to the deck would have made it feel a little samey. And Silent Wabi... What can I even say about this card? It's not good. But that's finally going to wrap it up for our last Barian Emperor. Feel free to let me know what you think of the deck. Till next time, I've been Wham Bam Duel, and I'm always happy to see you.